Kimmi and Maurice have long been seen as one of the more balanced couples on Love and Marriage Huntsville. Their relationship often appeared calm compared to the chaos around them. Kimmi carried herself with patience and grace, while Maurice presented himself as steady and confident. For years, this image held strong, but what viewers are seeing now feels different. The shift is subtle, but it is real. This no longer looks like a temporary disagreement or a storyline shaped only for television. It feels like something deeper is unfolding beneath the surface. At the center of this situation is trust. Trust is not built through words alone. It is built through consistency, honesty, and emotional safety. Lately, Kimmi appears to be questioning whether those elements still exist in her marriage. She is no longer simply listening and absorbing. She is responding. She is asking questions. She is expressing disappointment instead of quietly managing it. That change alone speaks volumes. Maurice, on the other hand, continues to struggle with accountability. When difficult topics come up, especially those connected to his past, he often becomes defensive. Instead of leaning into conversation, he tends to shut down or redirect. That response creates distance rather than resolution. For a long time, Kimmi tried to work around that pattern. She chose patience. She chose understanding. She chose to believe that love and time would soften the rough edges. But patience is not endless. When the same concerns repeat without change, patience turns into exhaustion, and exhaustion changes people. One of the most painful aspects of this situation is timing. Kimmi has been through serious health challenges. Those experiences often change how a person views life, relationships, and priorities. When someone faces vulnerability on that level, they need stability, reassurance, and emotional presence from their partner. During moments like that, every action matters. Every reaction carries weight. What viewers have noticed is that Maurice's responses during these moments have not always matched Kimmi's needs. Whether intentional or not, the impact has been emotional distance. And in marriage, impact matters more than intention. If one partner feels unsupported, the damage still exists, even if the other partner believes they meant no harm. Another ongoing issue is communication. Maurice tends to avoid full transparency when conversations become uncomfortable. He minimizes concerns, shifts focus, or frames himself as misunderstood. While it may be true that he feels judged, that feeling does not erase Kimmi's experience. Marriage requires listening without defensiveness. It requires creating space where both people feel safe to speak without fear of dismissal. Over time, Kimmi has carried much of the emotional weight in this relationship. She has tried to maintain peace, manage tension, and protect the marriage's image. But doing emotional labor for two people is not sustainable. Eventually, resentment grows. Love alone cannot survive when one person feels unheard. What makes this moment different is Kimmi's voice. She is no longer silent. She is drawing boundaries. She is naming what hurts. That shift does not happen suddenly. It happens after repeated disappointment, after unmet needs, after realizing that staying quiet no longer protects the relationship but slowly damages the self. Maurice appears uncomfortable with this change. When one partner grows and the other resists that growth, the relationship enters dangerous territory. Growth should bring couples closer. In this case, it seems to be exposing long-standing gaps that were previously ignored. Maurice's past has always been part of the marriage. Kimmi accepted that history when she chose him. But acceptance does not mean tolerance of repeated patterns. It does not mean ignoring warning signs. Love does not require silence in the face of discomfort. At some point, honesty becomes necessary, even when it threatens stability. Public pressure also adds weight to the situation. Being on a reality show means personal struggles become public conversation. Every expression is analyzed, every disagreement is replayed. But cameras do not create problems, they reveal them. Kimmi's restraint on screen suggests that much more is happening off camera. Kimmi is not impulsive. She is thoughtful and measured. If she is even considering walking away, it would not be from anger. It would be from self-preservation. That difference matters. Leaving a marriage is not always about giving up. Sometimes it is about choosing peace. Maurice often speaks about loyalty and respect, but respect is shown through action, not speeches. Consistency, honesty, and emotional availability are the foundation of trust. When those elements are missing, trust slowly erodes. Rebuilding it requires effort from both people, not just one. Right now, it appears that Kimmi is doing more of the work. She is reflecting, she is communicating, she is growing. Maurice, meanwhile, seems stuck in old patterns. Defensiveness replaces empathy. Walls replace bridges. And marriage cannot survive long-term when conversations feel like battles instead of teamwork. Viewers have noticed changes in Kimmi's energy. Her tone is heavier, her smiles are fewer, her patience seems thinner. These are signs of emotional fatigue. When someone is tired of explaining their pain, silence becomes louder than words. Counseling is often suggested in situations like this, and while it can help, it only works when both people are fully committed. Counseling is not a performance. It requires humility and honesty. If Maurice enters that space defensively, it will not create lasting change. Kimmi also has to think about her future. She has already invested years into this marriage. The question now is whether staying will bring her peace or prolong her pain. Love should feel safe. It should not feel draining or heavy. It is clear that Kimmi still cares for Maurice. Her disappointment comes from love, not indifference. But love without action cannot sustain a marriage where trust feels fragile and communication feels broken. And that's where this relationship stands now, at a crossroads. Another key element affecting Kimmi and Maurice's marriage is emotional safety. Emotional safety is the foundation of intimacy and connection. When one partner fears judgment, dismissal, or deflection, they naturally begin to protect themselves. Over time, this creates distance. In Kimmi's case, repeated experiences of feeling unheard have likely caused her to hold back, even while still living in the marriage. She may still love Maurice, but love alone cannot replace a safe space for vulnerability. When emotional safety is compromised, feelings of loneliness and isolation grow, even in the same household. Kimmi's shift toward openly expressing herself shows that she is prioritizing her well-being. She is testing the waters to see whether Maurice can meet her on equal footing. Respect is another concern. Respect is shown not just through words, but through consistent actions. A partner must demonstrate care, consideration, and accountability in both small and big moments. When disagreements arise, how one responds can either deepen intimacy or widen gaps. Maurice has often responded defensively, shutting down conversations instead of engaging with Kimmi's feelings. That response has likely contributed to a growing emotional distance. Even subtle gestures, or the lack thereof, influence the health of a marriage. Over time, consistent neglect or defensiveness accumulates, creating cracks that are hard to repair without conscious effort from both sides. Kimmi's recent behavior shows a significant shift. She is no longer passively accepting behavior that does not align with her needs. She is questioning. She is drawing boundaries. She is evaluating whether her relationship continues to serve her well-being. This is an important distinction. Choosing oneself does not mean abandoning love. It means recognizing the limits of endurance. Kimmi has reached a stage in her life where self-respect and emotional security are not negotiable. Her growth forces Maurice to face the consequences of his actions. If he is unwilling to adapt or respond with honesty, the imbalance in the marriage will continue, making it difficult for the relationship to thrive. Trust is a major theme in this unfolding story. Trust is fragile, and once it begins to erode, rebuilding it is a long process. Trust is based on patterns of behavior, not promises alone. Even heartfelt apologies cannot replace consistent action over time. Kimmi has likely observed patterns that contradict Maurice's words, causing her to question whether staying in the marriage ensures emotional safety. Rebuilding trust would require Maurice to fully engage, demonstrate transparency, and prioritize Kimmi's needs alongside his own. Without that effort, trust will continue to weaken, leaving Kimmi to carry the emotional burden alone. Health challenges have also shaped Kimmi's perspective. Facing serious physical or emotional challenges often clarifies priorities and reshapes the way a person views relationships. Kimmi's recent experiences may have intensified her desire for emotional safety and stability. She may now evaluate whether the marriage contributes to her overall well-being or adds unnecessary stress. These considerations are critical in understanding why she may be contemplating a separation. Counseling is a possible solution, but only if both parties are committed. Counseling requires more than attendance. It requires vulnerability, honesty, and genuine willingness to change. If Maurice approaches counseling defensively, as a formality or to protect his image, it will fail to address the underlying issues. Kimmi may find herself giving more than she receives, further highlighting the imbalance and potentially accelerating her decision to step away. The issue of accountability remains central. Maurice often frames himself as misunderstood, yet accountability is about more than perception. It is about acknowledging impact and making consistent efforts to improve. When one partner continually deflects or minimizes concerns, it signals a lack of willingness to grow. Kimmi's increasing assertiveness reflects her recognition that emotional labor cannot be one-sided. She is actively evaluating whether Maurice's actions align with his words and whether staying in the marriage will serve her in the long term. Public perception also plays a subtle role. The reality of being on a show means that viewers observe these tensions unfold, but their opinions, while visible, are not the determining factor. The core of the decision lies with Kimmi. She is living the reality behind the cameras. While speculation will continue online, it is her emotional truth and lived experience that will ultimately guide her decisions. Her assessment of whether staying in the marriage preserves her peace, dignity, and self-worth is paramount. Kimmi's emotional evolution is clear in her demeanor. Small signs such as her tone, facial expressions, and level of patience indicate a significant internal shift. These details may seem subtle, but they are essential indicators of her mental and emotional state. Emotional exhaustion often manifests in ways that viewers notice, even if the reasons remain private. Silence can speak louder than words, and Kimmi's measured restraint may communicate far more than verbal confrontation ever could. In marriage, growth and adaptation must be mutual. When one partner evolves and the other remains static, the relationship risks stagnation. Kimmi's growth highlights the gaps that previously went unnoticed or were tolerated. If Maurice does not meet her with equal effort, the imbalance will continue, leaving Kimmi to make a difficult choice between staying in a relationship that no longer feels sustainable or prioritizing her emotional well-being by stepping away.